Okay, so you would not believe the amount of requests I've gotten for me to talk about NIO. And in case you've never heard of NIO, basically they're an electric vehicle company based out in China that some people have called the Tesla of China. And I know a lot of companies are being called the Tesla of China these days, but this one has been especially successful at capturing people's attention, as evidenced by the stock increasing a whopping 1600% in less than a year. So obviously there's a lot of optimism surrounding this stock, and people have been asking me to do analysis on it, and I give the people what they want. So today we're going to be talking about some of the pros and cons of investing in NIO potentially, and I'm going to be talking about some of my own personal opinions surrounding this stock and what I think of the future prospects of the company is and whether or not I'm buying the stock personally. So this should be a very interesting video, and without further ado, let's jump in. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering why there's a cup of yellow liquid on my desk, this is not piss, by the way. This is Inca Cola. So, yeah, I just saw this in stores. This video is not sponsored by Inca Cola, by the way. I just thought it was interesting because I saw it in stores and I thought I'd try it. It's banana flavored. So, yeah, it tastes pretty good, actually. By the way, don't forget to get your free $10 when you sign up and trade your first $100 on Wealthsimple Trade, Canada's first and only commission-free trading platform. Or you can sign up for Wealthsimple Invest, where you can automate and invest and let compound interest work in your favor. And the sign-up bonus for that is $50 when you deposit and invest your first $500. And links for those are both down in the description. Now, those are affiliate links, so you don't have to use them if you don't want to. But if you decide to do so, it would help me out, it helps out this channel, and it would be greatly appreciated at no additional cost to you. Now, back to the video. Okay, so first let's go through some of the products that NIO has to offer, and I think it will lead into why people love this company so much. So I've actually known about NIO for a long time, and this is because of their first ever product called the EP9, which is their debut vehicle, and this is basically an insane supercar. I'll show you what it looks like right now. And I saw Richard Hammond's review of it when this thing first came out on an episode of the Grand Tour, and let me tell you guys, this thing is absolutely insane. So believe it or not, when this car first came out, it was the fastest electric vehicle, production electric vehicle in the world, and it has these like little head guards that prevent yourself from just breaking your neck when you go around a corner too fast. So obviously this thing is like $3 million, and they've only sold less than 20 of these, I think. So nowadays NIO does have options that are a little bit more economical, such that you don't have to have $3 million lying around in order for you to buy this car. However, in case you do have $3 million though, I believe you can probably still custom order one if you just have like $3 million underneath your couch cushions. I don't know, check under them. But anyways, nowadays they have this electric SUV, which is called the ES8, which is kind of comparable to maybe like a Tesla Model X. And it's pretty big, and it's on the expensive side, but they also do have a smaller crossover called the ES6, which is more comparable to, say, like a Tesla Model Y. And they've also released a cheaper version of a crossover SUV called the EC6. And lastly, they've also released a preview of an upcoming sedan called the ET7, which should start to hit the Chinese market sometime of around 2021. And NIO claims that this cars can get up to or close to 600 kilometers in range, which is actually pretty impressive considering most gas cars don't even get like 600 kilometers of range. So from what I can see, the cars are pretty high tech on the inside as well. So they have this digital assistant thing that can help you navigate, and they also are investing big into the autonomous driving game with their own in-house software called NIO Pilot. So all in all, I can see a lot of good things to come for NIO in the future. And yeah, if NIO can execute their plans perfectly, then there's going to be a lot more growth coming in the future. But looking at how the company is growing right now though, we can see that the revenue grew 21% year over year, which doesn't sound that impressive until you realize that we're talking about a year where a global pandemic has basically crippled the global economy and caused it to slow down dramatically. And we're also talking about a company that's based in the country where the global pandemic started. So yeah, they were hit first essentially, and analysts have high expectations still for NIO despite all of that, and the company is expected to grow a whopping 70% 70% next year in terms of revenue. And although the company is currently losing money, earnings growth is expected to be well within the double digits for the next 4 quarters. And lastly, one thing that makes NIO kind of unique and separates them from the competition is their battery swap technology. So basically, in exchange for a monthly fee, what if instead of plugging your car and waiting for 45 minutes for your car to charge, you can just drive into a service station and have robotic arms just automatically swap the battery for a new one. Alright, so the advantage of doing this is obviously speed. So it'll be relatively the same speed to charge your car as opposed to like filling up your gas tank basically. So all you're doing is, instead of charging the battery itself, you're just swapping it for a new one, right? And also another advantage of this is that you're not stuck with the same battery for the entire duration that you own the vehicle. So a major concern with Teslas right now, especially if you buy an older Tesla, like a used one from like 2012 or 2013, a major concern is that the battery might be kind of degraded. So with the battery swap service though, the company would sort of take care of replacing the batteries that are degraded themselves, so you don't have to sort of maintain the battery and you don't have to worry about buying like an older NIO, let's say, that maybe has a battery degraded, because if the battery's not good, all you have to do is drive to a service station, and as long as you're paying the monthly fee, they'll swap the battery, right? So I can see that also the battery stations being a little bit more space efficient than a traditional supercharging station like the ones that Tesla has. So space constraints might not be that big of an issue over here in Canada where we have all this land, right? But in big cities in China, I can definitely see how this is a big advantage from taking up less space, right? Because space is an issue in big cities. And lastly, one more advantage that NIO has that I wanted to mention is that they are supported by the Chinese government. So I don't want to get into politics on this channel, but if you're talking about Chinese companies, no matter if it's NIO or Tencent or Alibaba, you can bet that the Chinese government will prioritize them over foreign companies like Tesla or whatever, right? So if you look at the e-commerce space in China, Amazon is pretty much non-existent and Facebook is just outright banned, right? So the Chinese government is heavily incentivized on helping NIO succeed rather than seeing them fail. And if that means pulling a little extra strings for them from time to time, you will bet that they will do exactly just that. Okay, so with all of this being said though, what are some of the drawbacks of potentially investing in NIO at this point? Well, the first thing is obviously, as I mentioned before, they're not profitable just yet, which means that that in of itself makes them sort of still a speculative bet. And looking at the top line, it's not difficult to see why NIO lost so much money, because NIO is not even profitable on a gross profit basis, which I'll say is rare to see a company that's not even profitable on a gross profit basis, and this is somewhat of a cause for concern in my opinion. And combine this with a skyrocketing stock price, well, we end up with a stock that is currently trading with a very high price to sales ratio of about 26. Now for reference, Tesla's price to sales ratio is about a 16 or 17, and generally I say anything above a 6 is considered rich. And also I do want to mention that if you're watching this from anywhere outside of China, which chances are you are because YouTube is banned in China, but if you're watching this and you're not based in China, well, then you'd probably have to buy the ADR version of this stock. So if you don't know what an ADR is, it stands for American Depository Receipt. And basically it's this certificate of a shell company, usually based in the Cayman Islands, that has a controlling interest in the actual company in China. And the reason why this is so convoluted is because China has strict policies on foreign ownership of Chinese companies, and it's kind of a way to get around those regulations if you want to invest in a Chinese company, since this means you're actually not buying stock in the actual company, you're buying sort of shares in a shell company that has a controlling interest in the company itself. In fact, if you look at SEC filings from NIO, you will see that it lists the country of origin as the Cayman Islands. Now, this is not a big deal at the end of the day, as other big Chinese companies that you can buy here, they're all ADRs, right? I'm talking about companies like Alibaba and Baidu, for example. I'm just bringing this up so that you're at least aware that when you're buying Chinese stocks here in Canada or the US or anywhere in Europe, you're not actually buying stock in the company itself, you're buying something else. So yeah, technically it's not the same stock that a Chinese citizen would be able to buy, but again, it's not a big deal. I'm just bringing that to your attention. So with all that being said though, what is my final opinion? Am I buying NIO? Well, I'm gonna say I have to hold off for this for now. And I know a lot of you are about to jump out of your seats and yell at me because I know a lot of my viewers are big believers in NIO. But for me, I just think that the valuation of NIO is a little too high for a company that is still highly speculative. And a lot of NIO's future successes, they're still hinging on whether or not they'll be able to execute their plans very well and continue to grow at a breakneck pace. And at current valuations, it really leaves very little room for error. And the CEO of NIO has said that they're planning on expanding into Western markets like Europe very soon. So we'll have to see how that goes. I'm not saying that they won't be able to execute, but I just think that there's a lot of things that are different in China compared to Europe, right? I don't think I have to tell you about the cultural differences and the environment. So the culture and environment in China is very different than the culture and environment elsewhere in the West. So there's been countless of examples of Chinese products that are very successful in China, but not very successful elsewhere when it went overseas, right? Or vice versa. So for example, there's a Chinese company called Anker, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. They make like phone chargers and cables and things like that. So they came out with this product called the Anker box. And the idea is that they would be placed in bars and restaurants so that people can charge their phones while socializing with their friends. And apparently this was super popular in Shenzhen and other parts of China where they rolled it out. So they decided to do a pilot program in Seattle. And apparently it failed miserably because no one used it. And they tried to find out why it failed. And in the end, to the absolute shock of everyone involved in the project, apparently Americans actually like to talk to each other when they're out socializing at bars instead of just being on their phones all the time. I know, who would have thought, right? Absolutely insane. But apparently this is very different how Chinese people go to bars, because when Chinese people go to bars, apparently people like to go on their phones a lot. I don't know. Maybe if we have Chinese viewers, we can verify that. But it also works the other way around when big Western companies try to enter into the Chinese market and it doesn't work out that well for them. So let me read you part of an article that I found that describes Home Depot's attempt to enter into the Chinese market. So here it goes. With the Chinese economy in the midst of a growth spurt and the housing market following suit, 2006 seems like a good year for US headquartered DIY giant Home Depot to dip its toes into the market. It was until they opened 12 stores that they realized that the Chinese didn't really like to do it themselves. Unlike Western world where renovating your home is considered a bit of a hobby, developing countries have a tendency to see DIY as a sign of poverty. By 2012, Home Depot has shuttered its stores and taking a $160 million USD after-tax hit in the process. File under needs improvement. And I don't know about you guys, but I find that absolutely hilarious. My point is that bridging that cultural gap is not necessarily an easy thing to do, but if you want a brand that succeeds internationally, you're definitely going to have to be really good at bridging cultural gaps. So we see that cultural gaps can erupt in places, in the most randomest places, right? Like phone chargers, home improvement products, never mind a product like a car where, first of all, it's an expensive product, and second of all, it's something that we have a deep emotional attachment to, right? It's a product that people are really attached to. So once again, I'm not saying that NIO will not be successful in expanding overseas. I hope they are successful. But once again, we have to consider all the risks before investing in a stock. Once again, I already have a lot of Hyliion, and I also have a lot of other more speculative bets that I'm still waiting to see if they'll pan out well. So yeah, I'm truly trying to pick up more blue chip stocks at the moment. So maybe adding NIO at this moment in my portfolio is not like that big of a priority. And also, yeah, I just do want to see how well their growth goes before I jump in. So again, don't get mad. This is just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. And be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. I'll leave the video here for today. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.